Hello everyone and welcome to episode 4 of the Digital Marketing Punkcast. So today I'm going to be talking to Laljee. You may remember last week I talked to Josh Jackson from eJigsaw about branding. Well, I wanted to move it a little bit forward this week. I wanted to continue our little journey. So what do you think of once you've established your brand as a small business or a startup? Well, you're probably going to start thinking about a website, your first foray, as it were, into the digital world. So I wanted to talk about web-based website builders. Now, you may not know what they are, but we're going to explain all that in my conversation with Laljee. And the reason this is a subject which is very close to my heart is because I've always had a little bit of a negative feeling around web builders online. And, I would usually push someone in the direction of going down, a WordPress website or a proper CMS platform. If they're going down an e-commerce route, then to go down an e-commerce CMS platform. If you don't know what all this means, don't worry. A CMS is a content management system. That's what your website will be built on, the little building blocks or the foundations, as it were, which you build on to make your beautiful, wonderful website. And these web-based builders are obviously very, very different. And my opinion of them were that they were very restricted. They didn't let you do anything when it came to actually doing any marketing. Then they wouldn't allow you to have the options because you are in the hands of the people that build these platforms. So I wanted to have a discussion with someone about it. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know a huge amount about web-based website builders. I don't really use them in my day-to-day work, or I haven't used them for many, many years now. So I needed someone that did know about them, and fortunately, Kaz is one of these people. Kaz works for an agency in Manchester. He works for SocMed. You should go and check them out. They obviously do a lot of social media work for clients, but they also build Weebly sites as well for clients as well. So if you are thinking of taking your first forays into the digital world, then I strongly recommend that you go and check him out. I must admit, my ideas and my thoughts were turned around with what Kaz had to say. He was a wonderful, lovely guy. He spoke very passionately about what he does, and the key thing that I'm going to take away from my conversation with Kaz was his mindset, his mental attitude. And that was, if you are in the market for a new website, you've started up a business, or what Kaz was saying, he was saying if you have an idea that you think you want to get out on the web, or you have a blog, or you got something that you're passionate about, just go and do it. Just do it. That's what my sort of mindset has been for a very long time. Even though I don't maybe actually think about that directly, that's what my mindset is. Just go and do it. This might not be the best podcast in the world, but I just go and do it because that's what I'm passionate about and that's what I want to talk about. And Kaz has exactly the same mindset, and what I love is that he puts that across to his clients as well. And we had this conversation about, I work for an agency and we build clients' websites, and we do the best possible job that we can do because we're dealing with thousands and thousands of pounds worth of client money. And, we don't have the attitude of just go and do it, just go and find it, because we need to be very, very careful. But if you're in the position of a startup or a small business, you have the opportunities, and they won't tell you this, these big agencies. You have the opportunities to just go out and do it yourself and try it. If it doesn't work, try something else. And that's what I took away from Laljee's conversation. So here it is. Here is a discussion, me and Laljee from SocMed, all about web-based website builders. I hope you enjoy. Okay, I am here with Laljee here with me. Kaz, introduce yourself. Tell me who you are, what you do, and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. My name's Kaz Laljee. I'm a social media marketer based in Manchester, and in a part of Manchester called Media City, where I run a small social media agency. A bit about me, I suppose. I don't know, what can I say? I've always been involved in marketing since I was at university and postgraduate. my field has always been marketing, and that's what I've qualified in.
So we're here today to talk about web-based website builders. Now, that's a bit of a sort of a loose and fast term, I suppose. So could you sort of explain a little bit about what is a web-based website builder? For people that are looking on creating and building their own website from start as a startup or a small business, what is a web-based website builder?
Right, okay. I mean, I suppose to keep it as simple as possible is we all want a website at some point or another, or want to create a website, whether it's starting a small business, a hobby, or a blog. And whenever you hear about websites or make inquiries, they're always talking about numbers in the thousands of pounds. And if you're a startup business, I'm not saying it's wasting money to buy a website. I'm just saying when you're starting off and you're just doing it as a hobby, it's got to be something cheap and cheerful, if you like. So a website builder allows you to have something that's cheap and cheerful, but still allows you to do what you want. And it's a bit like a drag and drop system. So no complicated coding and extra things you have to worry about. You basically have a choice of options, and you drag and drop the options that you want. And before you know it, you've created pages, you've created pictures, you've got copy, and before you know it, literally, I suppose you could do a website in literally, well, I reckon you could create a website from scratch and do it within an hour.
That's fantastic, and you made a really good point there. Right, okay. So I work for an agency. I work for a digital agency, and people try and put up the cross symbol at me sometimes when I say that. But I do work for a digital agency. We build websites, we build e-com stores, all that kind of stuff. And you make a really valid point when you say for a small business and a startup, there is no shame whatsoever in starting out with one of these web-based website builders. There's no shame at all, because you hit the nail on the head. You said, when you do talk to an agency, it does typically mean that you're going to be speaking in the figures of thousands of pounds, which is just too much for a startup and a small business, isn't it? So I know it costs that much from obviously my experience, because you're paying for the salesperson's time, you're paying for the project manager's time, you're paying for the developer's time, and usually there's numerous developers involved, a designer, and all that kind of stuff. So you've hit the nail on the head. There's no shame in producing your website on a web-based system.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because in the early days, I mean, if you're going to start off, say, a small e-commerce business and with a little shop on the website, you're not actually Tesco at that point. You might have aspirations to become Tesco, but you're not at that point. So you need something that's quite easy, something basic. And as the business develops, that's when you can start thinking about websites. So, for example, SOCMED, we've been going literally 3 years, and it was only literally almost on our third year anniversary. We thought maybe we needed a better website to allow us to do things, and that's not dismissing the likes of the standalone or drag and drop websites, as I refer to them. So your Wixes, your Weebly's, and I think one-to-one. There's different ones. They're great, and we've been using Weebly for 3 years. I mean, it's amazing. I'm sure we'll speak about it a bit more later. But now we've got to a point where we want more SEO functions, we want different features on the website, and we want more things that are basically going to allow us to do well. I suppose demand increases, and we know now what we're good at as a business, and we know who our customers are, what they expect. So we've gone through that customer journey, and now we're like, right, okay, this is what a customer expects, and now we need to build it. So now we've got to a point where we've had to spend, say, single-digit thousands to build a website, and we're gonna see how it goes from there.
Okay, so that's obviously your experience using a web-based sort of builder. So you started off with that platform. Was it Weebly? Sorry, you started off and you were with them for 3 years. So what was your experience with them?
Oh, I can't say enough about Weebly. It is amazing. I mean, the way the platform works is basically I have 10 websites on my console. I just pick and choose which one. I mean, I've got 8 of the websites set up and they do different things. And people say sometimes it's not good for SEO and things like that. But I created a website for a mobility scooter. And for the first 2 years that was running, that was number 1 on Google when you made the search term for that particular scooter. And then the person actually selling the scooter mine was just a fan page, and the person selling the scooter was paying literally thousands every month just to get above me. And now still with no SEO, with nothing, we're number 3 on Google. So we've dropped from 1 to 3, but it's still pretty impressive considering it's a drag and drop website that literally took me 2.5 hours to build and to create, from start to finish. Of course, I bought the domain, but the good thing about these, the likes of Weebly, they allow you to host it. So all I've done is bought the domain for about 10, 20 quid, whatever the cost. I've built a website on Weebly, and I pay Weebly like a subscription. I think it's like £30 a website or something, and that lasts a year.
Okay, so we mentioned cost there, which is, when we're talking in comparison to the thousands of pounds that you could, if you went to an agency, if you went to a web agency and said, I want a website, we could be talking, some people go to an agency and they say they want a 10-page website, or, I hate it when clients do come to that, because I do feel that when they come to an agency, there is a level of, you are paying not just for the expertise in terms of the actual technical developer knowledge, but you're coming to them for the expertise in the SEO stuff, like you mentioned, the design, how that website's going to sort of operate and create that user journey. But when we're talking about the thousands of pounds that you could be spending for that kind of service from an agency, in comparison to, you've got the domain, which is, let's be honest, a couple of pounds per year, and then you've got a subscription service, which is a menial fee in comparison to thousands of pounds that you could spend. Yes, okay, it's one-off for a website, but you generally get tied into, you've got hosting, which is usually taken care of by your agency. Sometimes you can do it yourself, but it's sometimes taken care of by your agency. You've got the ongoing updates and maintenance that goes into that. There are ongoing costs with having a website. And when I'm talking about a website built by an agency, obviously I'm talking about the likes of those that are hosted on WordPress or a different kind of content management system platform, which are not based on, not a SaaS sort of model. It's not a subscription service. It's put on a server and you manage that server, and it's a whole software system which you have to build from. So the costs involved are dramatically different.
Yeah.
So other than Weebly that we've obviously discussed, what are the other main players? Because I know from my past experience, this is sort of chop and change, and there's newcomers to the market. And, I know Weebly have been around for a long, long time now. So who are the main players you would probably say at this point in the this sort of vertical at the moment?
I suppose at the moment, there's Squarespace, there's Wix, there's Weebly, and I think there's One and One. So I think between them, you realise that. And the good thing about these, they also develop. Obviously, they're not going to be as good as a custom-made website, which when you need one, you need one. So it's not going to be as good as a custom-based website, but the things will change over time. So when it first came out, you may not have been able to put a YouTube video. When I say first came out, I'm talking maybe 10 years ago. But after 7 years ago, you were allowed to put YouTube videos on. Then they give you the H1 header, the H2 header. And when I'm saying things like these are SEO things. So when you're on a website and you want to put a menu title or a page title, the H1 and the H2 headers are important, which basically tells Google that this is a page that talks about certain subjects.
So you make a really good point here as well, which is you are sort of the one restriction I'd say you have with one of these models, and I say it's a restriction because you're sort of stepping on it there about the one restriction you have is that you are obviously restricted to the platform, the developers at Weebly. You are restricted to the people at Weebly. I'm using Weebly as an example now, but the people at Weebly to develop that platform, to make it more relevant, up to date, that kind of thing. And you are restricted to that. Now, I remember years ago when working on these kind of sites that they weren't very good for I'm not saying they weren't very good for SEO. They didn't allow you to have the malleability, like you were mentioning there, for changing meta titles, for changing meta descriptions, for adding H1s and H2s and being able to subsection off all of your content. They didn't have that. But you're saying now, I'll be honest, I haven't touched a web-based builder for a long, long time. They're sort of catching up to that now.
Mm, yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Some of the features and functions, I think if they had, I think what they usually do is, I suppose they're a bit like supermarkets. Do you know when you see a supermarket do one thing, and then all of a sudden all the other supermarkets copy
Yeah.
it? They're a bit like that. So I think about 12 to 18 months ago, Squarespace were quite new on the market, and they were doing some innovative things, letting you have like before on a website you'll have loads of small pictures. Now a lot of websites, as soon as you hit them, they have a video or a massive picture, and that's kind of the main thing. You have one main image or one main picture, which you weren't able to do on these drag and drop websites. But over the last 18 months, they're giving you this facility now, and you are able to do
I
them.
think you make a good point. Now, to be honest, I see a balance of the two. I see a lot of websites designed by agencies, these WordPress package sort of websites designed by agencies, which they look terrible and they look like they're from the 1980s still, and they're not designed up to scratch. And that's because, a client's gone on and said, I just want a website, and they don't care how it's looked. You look at some of these, and you can tell in some cases, because you can scroll down to the bottom and see, oh, this has been made by Squarespace. You look at some of these Squarespace websites now, or Weebly websites, and it's not like they're not looking the part. These don't look anymore like they did in terms of templated websites where you could tell, wow, this has just been picked off a shelf and they've added their own text and it's got a very, very stock sort of imagery on it. They have this functionality, like you say, the big banners, which is, very key in modern web design now. The video, the video banners that you can have up there, those interactive finishing elements, they all include now. It's sometimes very difficult just from landing on a site to tell the difference between one that's been built by an agency or been built on a WordPress platform and one that's been built on one of these web-based builders.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that was one of the first reservations I had. I thought, I'm not going to get a website at the bottom, claim I'm a digital marketing agency, and at the bottom it says, this website was made by Weebly. I mean, it's almost not embarrassing, but it's not something you want to do. So, once again, these companies have thought of the different options and different things that someone would go through. So, for example, if you didn't want to spend a penny on a Weebly website, you could actually go up and have a website done for free without even paying the hosting or without paying the fee. So you could have a website, say, um, digitalmarketing.weebly.com, but it would have the Weebly within the actual domain. So they're paying for the advertising on two ways. It's within the domain, and it's also within at the bottom of the website. You might think, well, who would want to do that? But there was somebody I was working with, and they said they've got a book. All the money's being donated to charity. Everybody knows it's a non-profit, so they prefer that option. So they said we're not bothered even if Weebly's in within the title. So they didn't literally spend a penny. I think we spent a couple of hours doing it for them, and obviously, I mean, because we've become specialists at these Weebly websites now. So because it was a charity, we actually did it for no charge at all, and we set up a website within 2 hours where they could sell these books and make some money for charity.
That's amazing, and that's a really good example of when one of these platforms, and doing that for free as well is fantastic, and that's the situation. They are not just for startups and they're not just for small businesses, and I'm firmly on the side that I do recommend that people that are doing and want a website and want that digital presence, go and use these platforms and try them. It may not fit them. They may want some more functionality. They may want something bigger and better and something more impressive. And that's when you need to consider, and for that, you need to pay for it. Let's be honest. But in terms of what these things can achieve and what these things can do, that they are there. And for a situation like that as well, it's absolutely fantastic. And it's perfect, really. Okay, I suppose my next question. You have a lot of experience, obviously, with these platforms. I want to know, from your experience now, going through this process with Weebly and the other platforms, what do you think the skills are required to actually use them? So, are these for real complete technophobes, or do you need a little bit of technical knowledge? Even on a marketing level, do you need a little bit of SEO knowledge? Do you need, what do you need to be able to go and create a website for a business, for a startup, on one of these platforms?
Okay, I suppose with anything in life, there's a whole spectrum of places you can go. Like, for example, I would say if you're capable of using Microsoft Word, you can use
Mm.
Weebly to build a website. What I would also say is that there are experts who specialize just on Weebly or just on Wix, and they don't just specialize in the whole website. They say we specialize in the SEO for a Weebly website. And then there's a chap called Ryan, I forget his surname. He's like a Weebly expert. So even when we get stuck, I mean, we build Weebly websites for other people, but now you've got little communities. I mean, I suppose community is quite
Yeah.
a hot word at the moment because it's all about communities. For example, Facebook. It's the Facebook groups that are doing really well, and it's a lot of the community element of what we do
Mm.
these days seems to be doing really well. So you have little communities that represent. So you'll have an expert on Weebly who knows how to make your own template. There'll be an expert who does Weebly SEO. There'll be an expert who knows everything about it. So I mean, within our team, we know people, like we work with agencies and we build websites, but we also do Weebly websites. But somebody comes to us and says, "Listen, Kaz, I've got less than £1,000. We want to start up this business. Want to start from scratch, but we can't even start a business because it's someone saying it's going to cost us thousands of pounds to do a website. They want a fantastic website, but they're saying they're not in a position. So that's where Weebly comes into it. So we'll build them a Weebly website within their budget, and that's the good thing about Weebly. It doesn't have to be. It can be a one-page landing page, or it can be a complicated website with 50 pages. So you've got lots of options, and having these options means that within the Weebly world, if you like, there's different levels of different entry levels. Like, so you can request a small website, or you can request a complicated one because there are so much more functionality coming into them these days. It's people are becoming experts on certain very small areas.
That's interesting. That's like a little niche within themselves, and obviously, like being able to provide that service is really good for that level of client. I think that's really exciting. What do you think people should be thinking about before, if they're going to go and do this alone? And they want to create a website on one of these platforms, what do you think people should be thinking about before they just go and embark on trying to create a website? What, should they be thinking? Well, I'll leave that to you. What do you think they should be thinking about prior to it?
I think you'll have two sets of people. You'll have people like the first time I built a website, I was basically, it's about 10 years ago, and I was just, every time I had an idea about something, I'd just write it on Microsoft Word. And one day I realized I had about 30 pages of Microsoft Word, and I thought it would be really useful if someone could read this and get some value from it. So I basically took all that, copy and pasted it onto a Weebly website, and there you go, a website was built. But in some of the talks I do, I just tell people, whatever you're interested in, just create a website for it. So if you're doing blogs, if you're doing articles, say for example, someone's interested in, I don't know, you could be interested in, I mean, I've got a computer screen in front of me. So if you're interested in computer screens, just create a website and write anything you want. Get on Weebly, get on one of these Wix websites, and just create menus, create options, and just go for it. Don't be too hesitant. Don't think too much. Yes, you should be thinking. You should be planning and organizing, but don't let that be a hurdle to stop you doing something. I'm one of those. I always say, charities I work with, boards I sit on, committees I work with, I always say to them, you either search for perfection or you just get things done. And I'm one of those, I'll get things done. That's just my attitude. You might say, oh, Kaz, it's not absolutely perfect, but sometimes you don't have time for perfection. It's a bit like, do you know when something funny happens on football or on TV and everybody brings out these memes and someone slipped and it's really funny in the moment, but the picture might be slightly pixelated, the font might not be quite right, but it's in the moment and you're getting traction off it. There's no point having a meeting about a meeting and launching the meme after 10 days. Yes, it might be perfect after 10 days, but it's of no use to anyone whatsoever. So it's all about being in the moment. So don't be scared. Don't be shy. Just go for it.
I like it. I like the view, the point of view. I like that mindset, should I say? Actually, I think you're absolutely right. Go for it. You know, you can with these platforms. I suppose you can. You're not going to
Yeah.
break them. You know, you're never going to break one of these platforms. You know, they're set up to not allow that to happen. And you should let the creativity come from what they have, the tools that they have available, and their limitations and their capabilities. And I think you're absolutely right. It's to go and do it. We live, and you know this from a marketing perspective because you know you're a digital marketer yourself. You know you have to live in this moment where if you have content, you have ideas, you have thoughts, you have a creative whim, then it's all about now. It's about getting it done now and getting it out there as quickly as possible before someone beats you. And does it before you, because you know that's the way that the internet works. It's all instantaneous. So I like that. I like that. I like that mindset a lot. On digital marketing, then, because I know from the past when I have worked from an SEO point of view, from an AdWords point of view, paid point of view, they have had restrictions in the past. Now I'm talking a long time ago. You know, if someone's going to create one of these websites and they're driving it for a business, are they restricting with platforms like, you know, your standard subset of digital marketing platforms? And I'm talking about Google Analytics, Google AdWords, you know, Facebook. That's very close to, you'll have Facebook and the Facebook Pixel and things like that. Do they restrict that, or are they very, very open to it now?
I mean, even from day one, you could always put for example, I'm sure people know, but I'll just say it just for those who don't. So if someone wanted Google Analytics, you get the piece of code from Google and they say, put this on your website. Weebly allow you to do that. You just go on and it takes 2 minutes to do it. I'm sure people who have developers might say it takes longer, but for a Weebly website, it takes a few minutes. The Facebook Pixel, copy and paste it over. And then it also has basic SEO functions. So if I put a picture up of a bottle of water, you can write picture name, bottle of water. So some of these basic on-site SEO options and functions,
optimization sort of techniques.
Allows, obviously there are things that you can't allow, but once again, as I mentioned before, there are people who specialize in the Weebly websites SEO. I don't think it's going to be anything to the level that when you guys build a website for people that are custom made. Obviously, it might not be to that level, but I mean, for 30 quid a year, what else do we want?
Well, exactly, and that's exactly the viewpoint I kind of want to put across. I think, and it's the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, to be honest, because I feel there's a negativity around web-based builders, and I almost felt. I mean, you know that I obviously invited you on this podcast because I put up a LinkedIn post asking, and I was almost expecting to be ridiculed, and I was ready and waiting for it, and. That, to be fair, that didn't happen. But I think there's a negativity around these web-based platforms. And for people in the situations which you described before about a non-profit, for those that are starting up, for those small businesses, these web-based platforms are absolutely are ideal. And even if they have no idea about technology, they're a complete technophobe, they can even, you know, they can come to you guys and they can get a Weebly website built in, you know, in a very short turnaround, I'm expecting, because of the platform. And it can be done like that. And obviously if they want to, they can do it themselves. And that's why I wanted to sort of put that message out there, because I think you're absolutely right. It's interesting you're saying about, you know, the SEO optimization and being able to put Facebook Pixel on that. I think that's a really good sign. And let's be honest, there are other SEO sort of ranking metrics, as we call it, which do have an effect. But I'm trying to think of them now. And, you know, we're talking about site speed, we're talking of things like that. But at the end of the day, I suppose that's very much in the hands of the Weebly people. And I'm going to probably guess that they spend a lot of time and a lot of money making sure that, you know, their servers are up to standard, their servers are quick. You know, you're not going to have to worry about, you know, on-site speed optimization stuff, because everything they've got is within their platform and it should already be optimized before it even gets there and things like that. So, you know, there's a lot of negativity around whether, you know, and you gave a fantastic example about the mobility scooter before, about these websites can rank, and they will rank as long as you have a suitable amount of, I suppose, SEO knowledge to be able to go along with it. And I suppose you could liaise with an expert regarding that. But it is possible. It's not impossible. And I want people to know that I don't want people to believe when they're told you'll never get a Weebly website to rank. I don't want people to believe them about that. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said to you, the Weebly website I set up in 2.5 hours ranked #1 on Google for 2 years, and there was no black hat stuff there. It's all white hat. And basically, I found that, keeping it as simple as possible, I found that there was a particular page on my website that people loved. And when I went onto that page, what was it? It was useful, it was informative, and it was educating.
Yeah.
And that's the simple.
All of which are not.
Yeah, there was no fancy keywords on there. I was just telling people what the scooter was and just giving them a few ideas on dimensions and stuff. And apparently, and I don't know, it's by luck or whatever it was, people were interested in it, so they used it. And I think that's what it is. I think Google don't really care how much your website costs as long as it's useful to someone.
Yeah, and the things that you mentioned there, those ranking metrics are not based on the platform. You're talking about content and value for a user, and that is not dedicated by a platform which you build your website on. That's dedicated by the stuff that you put on that website, and that's dedicated by the content that you write and create and the images you put on and creating that journey. And that's the stuff that, like say, Google will actually care about when it comes to their algorithm. So I think there is a lot of negativity around that. So moving on just ever so slightly, obviously you did decide for your business to move on to a WordPress website. And I think this is a really interesting thing because, there is a level of limitation that you probably get to on a web-based platform. There'll probably be some kind of limitation when it comes to the functionality within your site that you require. What was it from your experience, and do tell the story? What was it that made you decide to move to a WordPress website, which you're looking to do now? Have you got it live yet? Actually, that was the next question.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned, was the website's complete now. We've got it onto a hosting service. So now we're just a case of finalizing the typos and the grammar, and probably going to do a soft launch. And I suppose it depends when you're listening to this podcast. I mean, you could go on and check. I mean, the website is soc-med.co.uk, so that's soc-med.co.uk. So have a look at it. So like I say, it depends when you look at it. But at the moment, we have still got the Weebly website. It's still up and running. Content apparently is great. However, we were, I suppose, coming to answer your question, we now realise there are certain things that our customers like. There are certain packages that our customers want to read more about, and people don't like moving from page to page. So, for example, if you go into a website these days, some of the modern ones, all the menus are on the same page. I mean, you click on it, the page just goes further down, if you know what I mean, rather than going to a separate page. I'm sure someone like yourself has probably got the technical term for that.
As a non-developer, and you've put me right on the spot there, but as a non-developer, I don't know. I'm gonna make it sound smart, and I'm gonna call them anchor points, but I'm not entirely sure that's the right terminology.
Yeah. Well, okay then. So basically, now we realise that we had to move to something like this, and once again, one of the key areas was the SEO capabilities. So the SEO capabilities of the current website were there, but the more work we would do on it, eventually we're going to have to move to WordPress, just because we needed certain pages to work quicker, because of the way we wanted it to work on mobile. I mean, we're becoming a bit more bespoke, I suppose. You become a bit more, I don't know what the right word is, but you become a bit more fussy, don't you?
Yeah.
When you first start a website off, you're just kind of really impressed with the fact the domain you bought is on the World Wide Web and people can access it. And in your mind's eye, you think the whole world is actually reading through your website the way you do, and you're checking for every comma and every spelling mistake and everything, because you believe that, oh God, if someone's going to read that. I mean, I must have put in like 600 manpower hours over the last 3 years onto my website. And that's me, myself, and within the team, because you're obsessed with it. The website almost becomes a part of you, and you want, and even though customers don't read every word on your website, you still need to make sure it's right, and you still have a image that you want to portray But yeah, we've had to move now because we know what certain aspects our customers want. So we've tailored the website to look more towards that. We wanted some future capabilities. So we've not installed them yet, but we've built the platform or the foundations to allow us to do that in the future.
That's interesting. And I want to get across, obviously, that, you've decided to do that over a gradual process. The Weebly site has worked for you. You just said you put in so many man hours in carefully developing in a kind of agile form. You carefully develop that site to what it is that you wanted, and just like you would in any kind of agile project management sort of system, you've now decided, right, the next step for us to do is to do this. Because I can come up with, I know I've lauded over web-based builders all this time. You can come up with certain elements from an SEO point of view where it might not be capable. I'm thinking things like, schema tagging might be difficult, and that's becoming very prominent now in terms of voice search. You're talking about certain levels. If you ever wants to go multilingual, although I suppose in certain cases multilingual might be possible on web-based platforms.
It's so sorry to interrupt.
No.
It's funny you mentioned that on our Weebly website, as it stands at the moment, we have a page in Mandarin.
Oh, really?
Because we had one customer in China, and we just said, right, we need a Chinese part of the website. So I don't know how many people actually visit it, but yeah, we have a page. So the Weebly allows you to have a page in Chinese. So
That's amazing.
There is a multilingual. Yeah, it's luckily we have one of the team who's done business studies, and he specialized in Mandarin and Chinese business. Don't know how we how we came to employ him and work with him is a really long story, but yeah, he's a very, very niche employee, but he's a top lad. So yeah, he helped us build the Chinese part of the website.
He essentially did all the translating. Excellent.
Oh, no, translating. I think it's also the people expect. I think that's when you get them cultural differences. People in China expect to read the website in a certain way, and they want to know more things about you. They want to know you more personally, and they want to know exact personal information, and they want like a dollar for dollar figure. I mean, I suppose pound for pound or one, whatever currency they're using, but they have a very different approach. So that page of the website has to read in a completely different way to the rest of the website because of, once again, that's the value in knowing, I suppose, cultural differences in business.
So I suppose the last thing I wanted to say on the WordPress thing is, how long has this process been for you? So have you attempted to essentially mirror the site that you have currently over a long period of time? Because obviously doing that all in one go would be maybe quite an offset in terms of cost. But have you tried to mirror the site that you have now, and then you're going to perform the improvements on it? Are you worried about making that transition from an SEO point of view and things like that?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I'm actually, we've got the new website. It's all ready to go, and there's a part of me that's thinking, I actually prefer the Weebly website. I'd rather just stick with that. But I mean, we've spent a lot of money on the new website, so we kind of have to do it. But I think I have that emotional attachment, and it's kind of, I think to myself, oh God, that page got us this client and that client's testimonials and this and that. And I mean, there's probably some parts of the Weebly website that we have now that look better than the new WordPress one we've got. But I think it's just, we've always, I mean, one of the things I see as a marketer is that you always have to be ahead of the curve, always be planning for the future. So the website we've built now has given us a platform to be working really, really well in 2 years' time. So we're anticipating certain changes to happen in the market. And I've spoke to the developer and said, this needs to happen now. So in the future, I can just basically add it on. So rather than someone saying, oh, we need to build a brand new website, we've kind of planned for it. So we've done a lot of work in the background to make sure we're future-proofing the website and to make sure that we're in a position to be ahead of the curve and basically all the latest technology or all the latest expectations of our customer are being able to put on there. But once again, we're literally in the transition phase now, so we're probably going to do the launch. Obviously, multi-channel, we can't just launch the website. We'll do a soft launch first and let people know about it and then take it from there.
That's excellent. I have one last. I know I said that was the last question before. I've got another question now, and this is This is
Oh, no,
more
no,
of a
please.
professional
I'm just
interest.
enjoying it.
You know, when you're building these Weebly sites for your clients, do you find it's a lot easier to work with them on a content point of view, getting content onto their website? Do you find it's a lot easier to work with that through the Weebly platform than it would be for, say, something which, you know, is quite complicated when we're talking about something like WordPress? I know it sort of sells itself as a very innate sort of platform, but it requires that
Yeah,
technical knowledge. Do you find it easier with a web-based platform?
I agree with you 100% there, because people for years have been saying, "Oh yeah, just do it on WordPress. It's dead easy." I mean,
Hmm.
you go on WordPress, you think, "Well, bloody hell, mate." I mean, it's okay. It's quite straightforward. I don't have to be Zuckerberg to start coding it, but it's not as simple as you make
No.
out. Where when I go on Weebly, it's just like literally drag and drop. I mean, it is literally idiot proof.
Yeah.
It's a bit like I mean, I suppose it's easy than Microsoft Word. With Microsoft Word, sometimes it's a bit funny to get things, but
Well, they've
if you
changed
want a
it. They've
picture,
changed it to death, haven't they? That's the problem.
oh yeah, well I think they're just trying to be like Apple, but trying to price themselves out the market. But that's a
That's a different
different story. But
story.
yeah,
We'll bring you back for that story.
oh no, yeah. I just think I think Microsoft's answer to everything is, well, let's price ourselves the same as Apple, and then people will think we're the same. But no, I've got a bit of a gripe with that. But yeah, Weebly, literally, I pick up on the left hand side of the picture, just drag it to the middle, put the picture where you want, put the text where you want. So the uploading the text is easy, the uploading the copy, the pictures, but you always get back to that thing about creating original content. So a customer might say to us, "Oh, just put something about us on the about us page," and I'll say, "Well, tell me what to put on the about us page." "Oh, just make something up, just put it on." And I'll be like, "Well, tell me a little bit about your
Hmm.
company, and then even just give me 10 bullet points, and we'll get our copywriter onto it, and she'll make it sound really, really nice." But we need to have some sort of foundation. So I think adding the adding the copy, the pictures, the content, very, very easy. But I suppose the age old problem of creating original content
Yeah,
to
exactly.
put on the website in the first place.
That's the clincher usually, isn't it? And that comes down to, I suppose, educating people about that, and making sure that they understand that original content is, well, content is king, I suppose, if I wanted to use the cliche. One last thing then,
Yeah,
if people look,
that's,
sorry, go on.
no, I was going to say that's. But once again, don't be too hesitant. Don't think, "Oh, I need to create excellent content. I need to do this." Just get it done. Write anything you want. If you're not sure what to put on the about us page, just write anything. If you're a blogger, people sometimes people don't want something that's too manufactured. They just want something that's real. I mean, you hear a lot of people these days, they don't watch all these programs like X Factor and all these other manufactured programs. They say, "Oh, it's not original stuff, it's just done for effect." And people are telling you there that's free marketing information to say people don't want to be set up. They want to
Hmm.
see what originality is. They want to see a bit of your character. So if you're a blogger and you want to go to your blog page, write as much as you want about yourself. Put a picture up on you. It doesn't have to be a headshot that's been photographed by some fancy photographer. Just get it done, and then
Yeah,
once you go from there, if someone starts complaining and saying, "Don't have that picture there, that looks ridiculous," that's then change it. But
yeah.
to keep it simple and just kind of go for it, give yourself the best opportunity.
And that goes the same for not just photographs or websites or anything like that. That goes the same for copy and content. You know, get something up and then go back to it. You know,
Yeah,
refreshing your content is as valuable as creating the content in the first place. So, you know, go back and look at it after a couple of weeks, after a couple of months, and you know, when you're in that position, you're not so sort of clouded by creating the content in the first place. I think you're absolutely right, and that mindset is absolutely key and very punk, which I like a lot. One last thing: if someone's looking to a small business, a startup, anybody like that, or even a non-profit, like you mentioned, which I keep forgetting to mention when I do that. You know, if someone's looking to do this, have you got any tips, hot tips, on getting a website up on a web-based platform, or what they should be thinking about creating? Should they have a brand, a logo ready and waiting? What should they be doing? What are the tips?
I'd yeah. The two things I would definitely say to you is just get it done either way. You either, if you're feeling adventurous, go onto Weebly now, sign up. It'll literally take you 5 minutes, and then have a little bit of a play around on it, and even just launch the website with the Weebly domain name. Call it anything you want. My amazingblog.weebly.com or whatever you want to call it, and just get it done. And then, or if you don't want to do that, give someone like us a call and just say, hey, Kaz, I'm on Weebly. I don't really fancy it much, but you say you can do it for next to nothing, or you can do it at a really good price. We'll get you to come in. We'll sit down with you, show you how we do it, and then just say, right, on your way. It's a bit like, we'll do like I suppose a bit like stabilizers. We'll help you, because the whole idea of Weebly is that you can help yourself. But if you need a bit of help from us, yeah, we'll charge you a small fee for doing it, or whatever, how many hours it takes us, and then at least you're on your way. We'll show you how to use it. We want to empower people. We don't want to just say, right, every time you need something, you have to ring the developer. Because at this level, you don't need other people to give you a hand. You just need to be able to do it yourself. And then if you become a really successful business, turning over thousands or even millions or whatever it might be, then you'll say, right, I need a really fancy website now, and then they can get in contact with someone like yourself, or I can they can come to me and I'll refer them on to you.
Oh, well, please, I'd love it. What I will say, and I think you are absolutely right in what you say, there is, and this is key to everything that I do in terms of digital marketing punk, and that is there is a massive disconnect between a client and what is actually happening and what is going on. And there's a massive disconnect because, it's all technical, it's all geeky, it's all nerdy, and that kind of thing. And you're right. When you said the word empowerment, then I smiled a little bit, because you're absolutely right. You have to empower the people that you're working with through education. And yeah, they might not be able to go away and then create code or write some code, but they are empowered enough to be able to do what they need to do well. And that's how they succeed. And I think you're absolutely right, Kaz, in what you just said, because that's fantastic. And I think as a starting point, what you provide and the service you do is absolutely bang on perfect. It's been a really interesting conversation, Kaz. Thank you so much for coming on.
Can I just add something?
Of course.
On the bit that you mentioned about coding, the other thing about Weebly, what it allows you to do is, for example, I wanted to have my Twitter feed on one of the websites that I run. So you go to Twitter, there's a code on there, you copy and paste it and put it onto your Weebly website. Before you know it, your Twitter feed is on there. Everybody else thought, wow, Kaz, that was amazing. And I was like, yeah, it was an amazing 2 minutes that took me from one tab to another and copy and pasted it. And there's a lot of things out there that you can do on things like Weebly for nothing. I have a social media client who works with me on the branding side of it. So he wants to raise his profile and be known as a certain thing in his field. Yesterday he was having a conversation and saying, right, Kaz, I've done this. And he mentioned his website developer. He says, yeah, he's just charged me for a few hours for some GDPR work. And I said, what do you mean GDPR work? He says, well, he charged me 5 hours. And I went on his website and there was a little... I don't know what they call it, a flap or a call to action box that came up, and it says something about GDPR, yes or no, and that was it. And there was a little call out box, and I thought, they've charged you 5 hours for that. And I mean, I don't want to embarrass him and start saying, and he went, yeah, he said I had to do it, and it was the law. I said, it is the law. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, Weebly did that for me for nothing.
Yeah.
That was just part of the system. And when I go to my website, I saw it the other day and I went, oh yeah, I didn't realise that. Why have they put that on there? And obviously they put it on for GDPR, but Weebly didn't take my permission or anything. They just did it. They probably sent me an email at some point and saying, we're adding this to your website, but they didn't charge me for that. And one of my clients, because we work with him from a social media point of view, he always had a website set up. I'm not mentioning his name for obvious reasons because I'm just like a developer. But his developer charged him 5 hours to put this little call to action up. And he was frightened. He's in a quite a professional field, so he didn't want to take any chances. And he's paid a developer £5 times whatever hourly rate he's being charged. And that was kind of a bit of one of those moments. And I thought to myself, God, look at that. We did it from nothing, and this guy's been charged a lot of money. So it's yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a safety net. It's not bespoke, fantastic website, but I tell you what, you get your money's worth definitely, and you get results as well more than anything.
Absolutely, and that's the key. And you made another good point there, which is, it is one of my bugbears, a massive bugbear. It's one of the reasons that I decided to set up Digital Marketing Punk was this idea of fleecing clients for money for things like GDPR. I mean, I'm sure we could have a conversation for hours, Kaz, about GDPR and its implications on websites, etc., etc.
But we'll not bore everyone.
No, we don't want everyone to fall asleep. But you're absolutely right, and it's part of that. There's no need to do that. It's not, and I don't know the client. I've not seen the website. I know it's not 5 hours work to put a cookies policy banner on top of a website or anything like that. It's just not the case, and that is terrible. And for you to be able to turn around to your clients obviously and just say, well, we can help you out on this and we can do this. That's really fantastic. And it's good to know there's still good, honest people in the digital world, because sometimes they're hard to come by.
Yeah, we're holding them all up by ourselves, aren't we?
We are. They're on our shoulders, yeah. Kaz, please do tell everybody where they can find your business on the web and where they can find you on social media and everywhere. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, and you can have a social media tip while you're at it. So if you're looking for me, you go onto any social media and just type in Kaz Laljee. That's KazLaljee. So whether you're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, it's just Kaz Laljee or at Kaz Laljee. If you want to look at the website, it's obviously all the W's, soc-med.co.uk. So that's S Sierra O Oscar C Charlie dash M for Mike, E for Echo, D for Delta.co.uk. So you can find us there, and I'm sure, like you say in the text, when you're next to this podcast, you can put my phone number. So if anybody wants just some free advice, just drop me a message or something. We'll put my mobile number on the I suppose on however we send this out, but I don't want to spend the next 3 minutes reading my mobile number out.
No, I'll put the mobile number onto the podcast page. Don't you worry, and it'll be linked everywhere as well. So don't worry about that. Kaz, thank you very much for spending the time speaking to me. It's been fantastic. It's been insightful because, like I say, I didn't know much about web-based website builders at all until you had this conversation. So, and thank you very much for responding to my LinkedIn post asking for people to talk to you about.
So, it shows you the power of social media, hey?
Exactly. So, Kaz, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. So that was my conversation with Kaz Laljee. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly found it very, very interesting. Please do go and find him all on cross social media just by searching his name, Kaz Laljee, apparently. I hope you enjoyed it. It certainly changed my mind about web-based builders quite significantly, to be honest. I thought they were just a little bit of a fad, really. Not fad, but they weren't really providing the same possibilities as websites like WordPress and things like that. So I thought it was really interesting to get Kaz's point of view on that, and he's certainly changed my mind. And I think he's absolutely right in what he says. If you want to get a website built for your business as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, don't hold about, just get it done, and get it done through one of these web-based builders. If you're not confident with using one, actually going into the developer side or creating one through WordPress, then use something like Weebly. I think I strongly recommend it now. And you can always transition to a WordPress site. Speaking of WordPress, coming up on the next episode of the Digital Marketing Punkcast, I'm going to have Ben Furphy on the show. He's a developer who specializes in WordPress. He's going to be talking to me about WordPress, whether you should be considering a WordPress website, when it's good to use, when it's not good to use. It's going to be really interesting, and I hope you will join me for that episode. Thank you very much for listening on this episode, and thank you very much for all the wonderful feedback that I've had over the previous episodes as well. People getting in touch saying they've been listening, saying they've been subscribing and messaging me and things like that. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this little punky podcast. So thank you so much. I hope you'll join me on the next one. I hope you'll subscribe. Please leave a review on whatever platform that you feel fit, iTunes, or obviously I'm now on the Google new app, Google's new podcast app, which is very, very exciting. I had to go and find out whether I was or not, and I was, which is wonderful. So you can now subscribe to me on the Google Podcast app. Obviously, as a massive Google fan myself, I very much enjoy that. It does mean that I now have to weigh up the consideration between changing from my podcast app of choice, which is Pocket Casts on the Android device, and moving over to the Google Podcast. And I'm not sure I'm there yet. I'm not sure I'm willing to take that leap. It's a very big decision for me. Very big decision. Anyway, thank you so much. If you do want to get in touch with me, or find me in any way, do please search for me on LinkedIn, Thomas Marriott, or you can go and find me on Facebook at Digital Marketing Punk, at Digital Marketing Punk, not at Digital Marketing Punkcast, at Digital Marketing Punk. You can find me on Twitter as well, at digital_punk. Go and find me, talk to me, let me know what you think of the podcast, and I will see you very soon for the next episode, all about WordPress for startups and small businesses on the Digital Marketing Punkcast.